Hello friends, how are you all? So let us continue international economics. In this video, we will study about external commercial borrowings. So although it is not a kind of investment in our shares or our bonds, etc., but it is considered to be a foreign investment because here foreign institutions like banks or financial institutions, they are extending loans. Okay, they are extending debts to the Indian commercial undertakings, and that's why they are part of our capital account in balance of payment, and they are still considered to be foreign investments. Okay, because they are kind of credit, they are kind of debt instruments that that are invested in India basically. Okay, so we will look at external commercial borrowings. See, the name itself suggests external, meaning it is taken from outside India. Commercial meaning it is for commercial purpose, to do some business. Okay, to do some business. And borrowings means loans. So these are the external loans for commercial purpose. Okay, so ECB, external commercial borrowing, means a debt or a loan taken by resident entities from outside India. Okay, and these resident entities, not anybody can take ECB, they have to be eligible to take ECBs. Okay, so RBI will tell which entity is eligible to take external commercial borrowing or not. Okay, so there are some guidelines for it. Not any Tom, Dick and Harry can go and take external commercial borrowings. So basically private companies, PSUs, take loans or issue securitized debt instruments which are usually denominated in foreign currency in external commercial borrowings. Okay, usually meaning almost always they are denominated in foreign currency only. Hardly any foreign institution will issue credit in rupee terms. Okay, nobody will do that. So 99.99% times it is issued in foreign currency only. So basically who is taking? Private companies, public sector undertakings. They take loans or they issue securitized debt instruments, meaning bonds, okay, or debentures. So again, but for business purposes. So I'll tell you what all is included in that. So in external commercial borrowing, bank loans are included. For example, some Indian company, it is taking loans from American bank. Okay, so bank loans, then buyer's credit, supplier's credit. These two topic I'll explain it to you in this video only after some time. So buyer's credit and supplier's credit are also part of external commercial borrowings. Then securitized instruments like floating rate notes. Floating rate notes, FRN, are nothing but your floating rates, that is floating rate bonds. Okay, so these are the bonds of which the coupon rates are floating, they are not constant. So coupon rates are floating and they can depend upon the rates of Federal Reserve of India or Federal Reserve of America, okay, of USA. So rates of Federal Reserve or LIBOR rates, London Interbank lending rates, so those rates are linked to these rates. Okay, and that's why they are fluctuating depending on their daily movement. These rates are also fluctuating, coupon rates. So they are floating rate notes. Then fixed rate bonds. So here the interest rates or coupon rates are fixed. Then credit from export credit agencies. Okay, there are certain for financial institutions which provide credit to exporting companies. Okay, to exporting businesses in India. Then commercial borrowings by private sector from the multilateral organizations like International Finance Corporations or Asian Development Bank, etc. Okay, so these corporations also provide loans to the private companies for commercial purposes through their private lending window, and they are also part of external commercial borrowings. Okay, so I will give you an example here. See, if ABC Corporation, which is in India, it is an Indian company, has taken a loan from an American bank, say of $1 lakh. Okay, of $1 lakh it has taken. It is equivalent to 80 lakh rupees because nominal exchange rate is say 80 rupees per dollar. Now when the loan amount is credited, they will receive 80 lakh in Indian currency. Okay, so although the bank has lent in dollar terms, but the person in India will use that money in rupees, so he will get 80 lakh rupees equivalent because on the day when he has taken loan, the exchange rate is 80 rupees per dollar. Suppose they are to return the principal amount along with interest after 1 year. Okay, so he has to return this loan, principal plus interest, after 1 year, and the nominal exchange rate at that time becomes 85. Okay, so our currency has depreciated. Now the principal amount to be returned is 85 lakhs. See, so 5 lakh rupees is straight the increase in your principal amount. So this is the foreign currency risk. This is the foreign exchange risk. So in external commercial borrowing also, foreign exchange risk is inherent. So ECBs inherently have the exchange rate risk, right? but are taken as but still people will take external commercial borrowings because the interest rates are lower outside. So in America you can get very cheap loans, in Singapore you can get very cheap loans, so that's why people go for ECBs, okay, because the interest rates are low but there are some exchange rate risk. So the companies have to look what is balancing each other. So if the exchange risks are more than the interest rate differential, then people will not go for it. If it is balancing or if it is less, then obviously people will go for it. It is a business decision. Then ECBs can't be used for investment in stock markets or speculations in real estate. Okay, so people cannot just take loans from outside and use that money to invest in stock markets. Okay, they have to use it only for commercial purpose, for business purpose, or doing speculations in real estate also. They cannot do that. Now, ECBs are monitored and regulated by the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance and RBI under the FEMA guideline. Okay, so any foreign investment, it is monitored by RBI under FEMA. You have to keep this in mind. Now, funds can be accessed through automatic route or approval route. Okay, so there are some limitations. For example, RBI has set some limitation, like for example, buyer's credit. So for buyer's credit, the maximum limit is say 20 million in automatic route. Okay, so up to $20 million per transaction, an Indian company or any person can, whoever is eligible for ECB, they can avail a loan or a borrowing up to 20 million from automatic route, and beyond that they have to take the RBI approval. So that is how this is same as FDI. So automatic route and approval routes. Okay. And all entities which are allowed to have FDI can avail external commercial borrowings. Now, who are eligible for external commercial borrowings? All the entities where FDI is possible. Okay, so wherever FDI is allowed, they can go for ECBs also. So this is the guideline. Now let us come and understand what is the meaning of supplier's credit. Okay. So supplier's credit means, I'll give you an example. For example, there is a seller in USA. Okay, he's selling some thing to India, and there is a buyer in India. So this buyer is basically the importer because he's importing from USA. So this buyer is importing from USA. Now this seller sells the goods but does not trust that the buyer will pay. Okay, so this person is selling goods to the buyer, but he does not trust that this buyer will pay him for his goods. Okay, also this buyer does not trust that if I give him the payment, this seller will actually deliver him the material or whatever goods he has ordered. So because these are in two different countries, they don't know each other, there is no trust between these two people, this transaction is very difficult. So in that case, there is a concept called supplier's credit. Okay, and also in this case, the buyer, say for example, he does not have money at that time to buy those things, so he needs some credit, he needs some loan. So what happens is, there is a buyer's bank. Okay, there is a buyer's bank in his country. So in India, say for example, this bank is HDFC. Okay, so this HDFC bank already has developed trust with this buyer because he has some deposits or collateral kept with this bank. And what happens, this buyer's bank will issue a letter of credit to the seller, and this buyer bank will say that okay, this buyer bank will guarantee the seller on behalf of buyer that the bank will pay after the said period. So this bank will say that after the said period, say 6 months, 3 months, I will pay you the amount of bills. For example, if the goods are rupees 1 crore, so this HDFC bank will tell that I will pay you 1 crore after 6 months. So that is written in letter of credit. This is known as letter of credit. Okay, and also along with interest. It is not, the seller will not unnecessarily wait for 6 months or one year without interest. So he will say that principal plus interest. Okay, so buyer's bank is basically issuing a letter of credit to the seller, and seller is trusting this bank. Basically, this seller has to trust this bank. Okay, and that is how this happens. So in practical life, this is not that simple actually. So this seller will obviously will feel that this buyer's bank is in India, and maybe he doesn't trust HDFC bank also. So there is another intermediary bank here in between, okay, which is known as a advising bank. Okay, so this advising bank is a bank which is a bank in the seller's country, say America, and this advising bank has relations with HDFC bank. So buyer's bank will actually issue letter of credit to advising bank, advising bank will verify it, and then it will issue letter of credit to this. So this is practical, but you don't need to actually keep this in mind. Just understand the meaning of supplier's credit. So basically here what is happening, this buyer is getting loan for 6 months. Okay, he doesn't have to pay now. Buyer's bank is saying that we will pay you after 6 months, don't worry, this is a guarantee we are giving you. So seller is giving him the goods at a trust that he will get money after 6 months or whatever is the period in their agreement. So that is why it is known as supplier's credit, because supplier is extending credit to the buyer here. He is not getting paid immediately, he will get paid after 6 months, 1 year, with the trust from this bank, with the trust from this bank. That's why it is known as supplier's credit. Okay, now the maximum period of supplier's credit can be 1 year for non-capital goods. Okay, so this letter of credit can be issued for maximum 1 year. ओके तो 1 साल तक का ये ट्रस्ट हो सकता है, उसके बाद में दे विल हैव टू मेक दिस पेमेंट फॉर नॉन कैपिटल गुड्स, एंड फॉर कैपिटल गुड्स इट इज 3 years, and maximum amount to 20 million for automatic route per transaction. Okay, so this is the RBI guideline. These guidelines keep on changing. Okay, so you don't need to really remember this, but just try to understand that there are certain regulations and guidelines here. So that is the supplier's credit. Now let us try to understand what is the buyer's credit. Okay, buyer's credit means what? Say for example, again the same situation, there is a seller in USA, there is a buyer in India, and this seller is selling goods to the buyer, but he does not trust that the buyer will pay, or he does not trust that his bank will also pay. Okay, so here he is not trusting this HDFC bank also, and he is not trusting this buyer also. Okay, he does not trust into letter of credit and all those things. So but he trusts a bank in his own country which is known as the seller's bank, and he wants payment immediately. Seller says that no, I want payment immediately, but buyer does not have the payment immediately. So how this will happen? So this is done through the buyer's credit platform. Okay, so what will happen? See, this buyer will approach his buyer's bank, say HDFC bank in India. He will have some collateral with him, or with the bank, or he has some deposit. So there is a trust developed between buyer and the buyer's bank. Now this buyer's bank will issue a letter of undertaking, LOU, to the seller's bank, which is a bank in the foreign country, in the USA. This seller bank will trust this letter of undertaking. Okay, in this letter of undertaking it is mentioned that this buyer's bank will ensure that payment is made to the seller bank after 6 months or 1 year, whatever, and this seller bank will pay this seller immediately. Okay, immediate payment is made by the seller bank to the seller. So the seller gets immediate money, but the credit is extended to the buyer. So buyer can pay him after 6 months, buyer's bank, and after 6 months when buyer banks receive money, buyer bank will pay to the seller bank. Again, this is not that easy. So this seller bank does not actually immediately pay to the seller or directly pay to the seller. So there is a foreign currency account of this buyer bank in this seller's bank. So basically this is known as a nostro account. Okay, nostro account. So nostro account is an account which is held by the buyer's bank in the seller's bank. So this seller bank will give money in the nostro account of buyer's bank, and from here payment will be made to the seller. So that is how actually it is routed. Okay, it is routed like this, not directly. But again, this is details, we don't need to get into this. Just to understand the concept of buyer's credit, you understand that there are two banks involved here, buyer's bank and seller's bank. And buyer's bank will issue a letter of undertaking to the seller's bank, and seller bank will trust this letter of undertaking. He will pay to the seller, seller will get immediate payment, he will ship the goods to the buyer, and buyer get the credit for 6 months, and after 6 months buyer will pay to the buyer's bank, and buyer's bank will pay back to the seller's bank. That is how this happens. That's why it is known as buyer's credit. Okay, so here actually what is happening, buyer's bank guarantees seller's bank on behalf of Indian buyer that bank will pay after said period. Okay, seller's bank collects payment from the buyer's bank along with interest after whatever is the period, stipulated period. Now again here the rules are, maximum period is 1 year for non-capital goods, 3 years for capital good. So this letter of undertaking or this credit can be for maximum 1 year for non-capital goods and 3 years for capital goods, and maximum amount is again $20 million per transaction through automatic route. So again these are the regulations, this can change in future, but as of today these are the regulations. Okay, so I hope you have understood the buyers and sellers credit. And friends, just want to remind you that this Nirav Modi scam, Nirav Modi scam, which had happened in India by the Punjab National Bank officials and Nirav Modi. So this was actually the scam around the buyer's credit only. Okay, so that scam had happened around the buyer's credit, this entire facility only. So I'll tell you in short. In Nirav Modi case, what happened? The buyer's bank was Punjab National Bank. Okay, and this seller bank was basically the Axis Bank and Allahabad Bank, their foreign branches. Okay, in Hong Kong. So basically, this seller bank can be the Indian bank but foreign branches. So these were the Axis Bank and Allahabad Bank in Hong Kong, and Punjab National Bank in Mumbai. They had issued letter of undertaking on behalf of Nirav Modi to the Sailors Bank, which is Axis and Allahabad Bank. And then this Nirav Modi used to import diamonds from outside, from foreign. So he used to import diamonds by use of this letter of undertaking. So they used to make payment to him, but whenever the time came, and here obviously this buyer bank, they have to keep a collateral. But the fraud that was done, that without collateral, this Punjab National Bank officials were issuing letter of undertaking to sellers banks in that case. So when it was a time for repayment, okay, when it was a time for repayment, he was not doing the repayment, and there was no collateral also against it. So that is how the entire fraud happened. So Axis Bank and Allahabad Bank, the foreign branches, they were not getting payment from Punjab National Bank. Punjab National Bank was not getting payment from Nirav Modi, okay, because there was no collateral. They could not do anything about it. So that was the entire fraud that happened. So it was much more complicated. It is not that easy, but just to give you an idea how it happened, I am telling you. So this was about external commercial borrowings. We will continue international economics in next video also. Thank you.